Hey makers, we're about to go live on LinkedIn. Are you ready? Let's come together to shatter convention, navigate life and work, find leaders worth following, make a statement.
Equality is sameness. Equity is fairness.
This roundtable is really important to amplify the voices of young women in our generation and think about how we can connect and support each other as we make change.
So tune in from wherever you are. It's time for Makers Live on LinkedIn.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to Makers Live on LinkedIn. I'm Kanika, Chadda, Gupta, and I am just thrilled to be here with all of you virtually. A bit about me. I am a television journalist, podcast host, and mom of 3, including twins. I host the popular podcast, That's Total Mom Sense, where I interview public figures like Kelly Rowland and America Ferrera on their life lessons and parenting journey, and above all, their legacy. I'm honored to be making an impact through my interviews and conversations, and I have to say that the gems that my guests drop are intended to help you become a better version of yourself every day. I am so grateful to be part of this makers community for a few years now. They have provided a space for all of us to lead with purpose. And I want to give a shout out to the women who saw something in me and gave me a chance to be part of this platform. So starting with thank you to Allison Reedy Williamson and Janae Hawkins and the entire team that put this event on today, Ronisha, Angelica, Carrie, and Jake. We really, really appreciate you. Okay, today's session is called Make It Make Sense, Women's Health. I coined the term mom sense through my show. It's essentially our superpower of intuition and our inner knowing. And I believe in making sense of things. So today we're going to do that about women's health and how it keeps evolving through every season of our lives, from puberty to pregnancy, matrescence to menopause. And women's health hasn't been an open forum with through data and all the research out there. And it's something that's been really nuanced and challenging in navigating in the workplace. So today we're gathering here to think about ways we can connect the dots as leaders and use our confidence and this collective to speak up and find support. Before we begin with our distinguished guests who will be joining me, let us know where you're logging in from. So you can go ahead and type that into the chat. Feel free to say your name, say hello, how you're feeling today. But I know we have those logging in from all over the country. I'm actually in Newport Beach. I'm originally from New Jersey, but I'm enjoying the California summer right now. Now on to our very special guests for this session. They're both passionate leaders driving women's health conversations and advocacy forward. First up, please welcome Jazmyn Williams. She's the Vice President of Brand for Honey Pot, a dynamic feminine care brand. Side note, the founder and CEO, Beatrice Dixon, conceptualized her formulas when she had a dream about her grandmother telling her how to do it. So there's just something very spiritual and meaningful about that. Jazmyn is the creative force behind Honey Pot's brand building, leading initiatives from strategic brand partnerships to community events, and driving retail marketing. Her previous experience includes marketing at Coca-Cola and Meta, and her passion for diversity, equity, and inclusion shines through her work. Welcome, Jazmyn.
Thank you.
Thanks for joining us. And I'll introduce our next speaker. We have Dr. Sarah De La Torre. Dr. Sarah is a double board certified physician with over 25 years of experience dedicated to advancing women's health. She serves as the clinical lead for Respin Health, which was founded by Halle Berry and provides her medical expertise through patient relationships, media, product innovation, and education. She is passionate about empowering women to understand their bodies and confidently navigate perimenopause and menopause and advocate for their well-being at every stage of life. Welcome, Dr. Sarah. I have my journal here, so I plan to take copious notes from all of the insights from the two of you. This is just going to be a really great conversation. I want to kick it off with some stats just to kind of give us all a lay of the land. We know that before the 1990s, women were rarely included in clinical trials and just were continually underrepresented and underfunded in medical research. Prior to 1977, the FDA broadly prohibited women of childbearing potential, which means the fluctuating hormones and the chance of getting pregnant, from many early stage clinical trials due to the liability concerns. So when there were launches for new medications or interventions or surgeries, we only had data on men. So it was only until the early 1990s that the women began being consistently included in NIH-funded research, and this was through the Revitalization Act. So we've gone through many, many hurdles, and for us to be sitting here today having these conversations and seeing that the government is funding women's health research is really, really groundbreaking. I want to just kick it off with a question to the two of you about when you first realized that women's health was not talked about openly. And you can just feel free to tell us a story and take us as far back as you'd like.
I'll go ahead and start. So, I was brought up in a very conservative household, and I'm a Gen X woman, and that generation of parents, or my parents, they were older, and it was clear that they weren't comfortable talking about things that I felt were important in life, like reproductive health or just your body. And then even more in a conservative household, things were not talked about. And around the age of 15 to 16, I started thinking, this is not okay with me. Like, I have questions, I need answers. And so I ended up taking myself to Planned Parenthood to find those answers. I learned about my body, reproductive health, birth control or not, just like I learned from this nurse practitioner who was a friend of a friend and was more than happy to teach me the things that in my mind, a family should be teaching a child, or at least culture, community. And so I just didn't want to emulate that, not only professionally, but also in my own family. And so I was really inspired. It inspired me to go to medical school, but specifically in women's health. I am very passionate about women understanding their bodies and knowing what's going on. And then professionally, what's been humbling is that, I talk about women's health and women's bodies all the time. It's very comfortable to me. I talk about it with my sons. But I'm always humbled by women who are not familiar with their bodies or understand their hormones. And it's not their fault, right? It's culture and our systems. So I feel very lucky to be in a position to help women. And I just think the more we can advocate for women to understand their bodies and their health and then advocate for themselves, the better the world will be.
To echo some of what Dr. De La Torre said. So since working for the Honey Pot, I will explain to someone, say, oh, what do you do? And I say, oh, I work for the Honey Pot. And if they're familiar with the brand, I almost always get a similar reaction, one of two reactions. One where someone will like lean in and go, okay, oh my gosh, I know this is TMI, but, and I always want to stop them there and say, like, it's not TMI, it's not too much information, but that just goes back to what Dr. De La Torre said, that we have, as women, been conditioned to be ashamed of our bodies, what it goes through, what it does. And unfortunately, especially in our society, the vagina is often so connected to sex only. And so that is what breeds that shame and that quietness. And you shouldn't talk about it because if you are, you're being promiscuous or something that just is not actually true. And then the other time is probably when the vagina is connected to babies. And so like, that's beautiful and great. But if you're a woman who chooses not to have a baby, are you not allowed to understand how your body works and what it's going to go through? And so that's something that I've just found. It's clear, and I don't want to say it's no one's fault. I mean, as you're growing up, if that's what you've experienced, not having a safe place for that to be expressed, then it would make sense that you might feel that level of shame and not talk about it. On the flip side, I get some people who, love the honey pot, and they'll go, oh my gosh, I love the honey pot. I actually have a honey pot pad on right now. And I'm like, amazing. What feedback might you have for me? And so that's great too, because I think the more that we normalize talking about our bodies and being able to empower each other and share with each other, the more we can experience holistic community health.
Oh, absolutely. I couldn't agree more. In my experience, being South Asian, I'm Indian American, and my parents and I immigrated here from India. We still don't talk about that. It's just like, I feel like, did my 3 kids just fall from the sky? We're just not going to go there. And I feel like it takes conversations like this that level set and give us an open forum to have these talks. It's so important.
Yeah, I tell my patients a lot, like if you're not comfortable even asking your doctor, right? Who you should feel like if you don't feel like talking about it in public or TMI in public, but if you don't even feel comfortable, and again, not the woman's fault, right? It's culture and our system and our providers who are creating this barrier. And it's unacceptable to me. Women should be very, very clear with themselves about what they want to know and how they can advocate for themselves.
Yes. I want to just flip the script a little bit and double click on a new, initiative. So Yahoo News recently debuted a series about Problem Solve Hers, HERS, 5 badass leaders driving innovations in women's health in a growing female-focused technology. And this industry is called femtech. So did you know that there are newly shaped tampons that are easier to use, wearable devices that track perimenopause symptoms, and smart pads to diagnose endometriosis? This is for the audience. Of course, our guests definitely know, but there are all these exciting developments happening, and I'm so glad that we get to talk about them here. So I guess starting with Jazmyn, how do individuals and companies advocate for systems of change in women's health? And you see this firsthand at the Honey Pot.
Yes. So we center everything on real experiences and not taboos by talking openly about periods, about vaginal health, postpartum, pleasure, and everything in between, because we truly believe that change starts when humans with vaginas feel seen and heard. So we are on a mission to destigmatize any and all things that have to do with a vagina and vaginal wellness, as well as normalize what a vagina and sometimes the parts around it go through. So, a UTI, I think, is something that is very common, but something that brings a lot of shame. And so making sure that humans feel that, like, okay, so next time you're going to pee after sex, and that's how we're going to help you prevent UTIs. And then if it keeps happening, then we need to advocate and figure out a way to support your health. For us, accessibility is really key. And we as a brand, we meet humans where they are on the shelves, on social and in schools. And so accessible health for us should be as common as the everyday curriculum. Our brand seeks to be what we call an auntie advocate. And I would ask everyone on this call to think, like, who was the woman for you that really made you feel seen and you could go to and kind of ask those questions and get the information you needed, especially before we had Google and TikTok and all of these other, search engines. Who was she? She might have been your mother, but she could have been a big sister, an aunt. It could have been a teacher, your nurse, a counselor. For me, it was my godmother. She worked at an OBGYN office. And so when my mom gave me a book about all of my, what was going to happen with my body, I read through it and then I went and asked my aunt. And so as a brand, we seek to be that, and also to provide that education so that we all can be that auntie advocate for another young lady in our lives. And so we do this through a multitude of different activities. We tour HBCU schools to bring education to those students. We find that a lot of HBCU campuses tend to be overlooked by big brands. And so we double down on that to make sure that those young ladies are educated and empowered. So we're bringing medical professionals, we bring educate on the body's pH levels and how our products specifically support a healthy skin and vaginal microbiome. We bring samples because that's the best way to become a brand loyalist and lover, and also guidance on how to incorporate wellness into their daily routine. So we really believe in holistic wellness, mind, body, and soul.
That's incredible. I love that. We all need an auntie advocate in our life to feel seen and have a sounding board. That's really wonderful. And Dr. Sarah, what about you? Tell us more about the innovation around perimenopause and menopause.
Yeah, I'd be happy to. And Jazmyn, that was amazing to hear. I love what you're doing. It's really incredible and so impactful. Well, similar, we're at Respin, we think about accessibility for women. You know, Hallie is this, megawatt star, and she really struggled through perimenopause and menopause. No one told her, no one could tell her what was going on in her body. And this is not uncommon, right? This has been happening for a very long time, where women come in and I have this symptom, I have that symptom. And unlike men, where there's data showing that men's symptoms are addressed immediately, you have palpitations, we do a cardiac workup. A woman has palpitations, which is a common symptom of perimenopause, and she's labeled as anxious, right? And she's not given the workup or talked about what could be going on medically and for her health. So here's Hallie, this megawatt star, and she can't get answers. And she was inspired to help women find answers and find community and find help. And at Respin, we are using multiple modalities. We're using AI. More importantly, we're using community, and we have an opening Respin clinic where we're giving hormones. So it's essentially a 360 platform for women to learn about perimenopause and menopause first, to educate themselves. We have webinars and a ton of content, and then they also have access to coaches, because we know in the healthcare system that you can go see your doctor and your doctor will say, hey, you should probably exercise, or, strength training is going to help your bones. But how do you do that, right? So with the fantastic group of coaches that are leading women, helping women in our community to reach their health goals, to feel better, to ask questions in a very open space, right? Our community tells us how we've made a difference in their lives. So we're also giving personalized protocols for women. So you put in your health data, your family history, and then we can tell you what actually works for you. Because a lot of women, it's so confusing. There's so much information out there, and a lot of it is misguided and not specific to that woman, right? So you're like, how much protein, how much weightlifting, all of these things. So we really personalize what we're telling women and what we're asking them to understand about their bodies and how to get to the place that they feel better. So at Respin, we feel like we're making a difference in terms of carrying women, helping them, holding their hands through this very confusing time of life in terms of what their bodies are going through, and also just in terms of what their lives are going through. Midlife is a very challenging time for many women. And for all humans, to be honest, we're in mid to peak of our careers. We're caring for aging parents. We may have children still at home. It's a lot. And then on top of it, these hormone challenges where you kind of can feel fairly terrible at times in terms of brain fog and, low energy and all these other things. So we're just welcoming women to join us and understand what's going on in their body, get a personalized protocol and a plan that we support them through, and then menopause hormone therapy if it's reasonable for them and that's what they want to choose to do.
That's excellent. Thank you. I wanted to ask Ronisha or Angelica to just pop in the URLs for Respin and the Honeypot in the chat so that all of our audience members can do their own little research behind it. I know Honeypot's everywhere. I've seen it at Target, of course, buy the products. Okay, so I wanted to segue a little before we go back into our Q&A because we have a really lovely guest cameo by Tara Lipinski. And if you're Gen X or millennial, you grew up with her. She is the famed figure skater. She was the youngest to win the gold at the Winter Olympics in 1998. I still remember that performance, cheering and crying with her. And she now has a podcast called Unexpecting, where Tara and her husband talk openly about their journey through parenthood. And she's very transparent about her experiences with endometriosis and infertility, which is just so lovely to see an icon be an open book in this way and use her advocacy. So we can hear from Tara.
Hi, I'm Tara Lipinski. I'm a mom, I'm a wife, I'm an advocate. I won the Olympics in figure skating when I was younger and now a broadcaster, and I call Los Angeles home. I definitely think that there's movement that is happening, and that is such a good thing because obviously my own experience has been in the infertility world, endometriosis, but you hear many more people talking about menopause, perimenopause, all of these topics, all of these things that women go through that I think for so long, in a way, we have felt like we have to be silent on these subjects. But I think the more people that are leading the way and making this change, and the companies that are bringing light to some of these issues, it's only going to help us break the stigmas, break those taboos down so that women, whether it's their family, friends, doctors, feel comfortable finding answers and talking about these issues. And not only for the physical, but the emotional support.
That was excellent. Oh my goodness, she hasn't changed one bit. Before we go into the last question for this session, I wanted to just have everyone think about what's on the horizon for women's health. Recently, there's been a surge of information about perimenopause. Shout out to the We Don't Care Club. Menopause, just in general in the media. You know, we've seen the roundtables led by Oprah, Drew Barrymore, Melinda Gates, and Michelle Obama, and policies like paid family leave. For me, as a brown woman in my 40s, I know I'm the type that just wants to learn it all and feel like I'm set for success. And I can pass all of this on to my daughter and 2 sons. I wanted to ask you all now, what women's health topics do you expect to gain traction in the coming years that, you know, we might not know already? Like, what's around the bend? Dr. Sarah, we'll start with you, and you can speak to.
Great, thank you. Yeah, what Tara was talking about in terms of just more information, right? We need to have women, well, one, we need research. As you mentioned in the beginning, Kanika, that research about women had not been happening until the mid-90s. And even then, it's still been a slow start to include women in specific groups of women: perimenopausal women, menopausal women, women with endometriosis, PCOS, right? So advocating for there to be more research in women's health. There's a big study, most of you know, probably 2002, the Women's Health Initiative, which made most women go off of their hormones. And this hormone treatment, we now know, prevents cardiovascular disease and can prevent, osteoporosis, dementia, all of these things, but women are still afraid. So I'd like to see more research on newer hormones that we're using, talking about this and letting women know that instead of leading with fear, the way we do in terms of educating women, we lead with information, accurate research-backed information. And at Respin, again, that is something that we're doing. We are entirely research and science-backed. It's not influenced by what's latest in the trend. It is truly looking at the research and understanding it and translating it for women's bodies and women's health. And the other thing, which alludes to what Jazmyn is working on and doing, is the vaginal microbiome. I'm fascinated with this. I hope there's more and more research coming out about the vaginal microbiome. It holds a lot of keys to information about early, preterm delivery, infertility, endometriosis. And so I'm very excited about that research as well.
Love that. I'm going to let the doctor really talk about what's new on the horizon, because that's really her space. But the vaginal microbiome is definitely fascinating. We're hearing a lot about the gut health, but the vaginal microbiome is another just like key central point. I mean, it's the source of life. So there's a lot of importance on that. What I wanted to bring up is actually not something that is new, but it still has a lot of room to go. And it's around postpartum care. I think, it's finally getting the attention that it needs, but not just on the medical side, but the emotional, the sexual, and the spiritual recovery that comes after birth. I would really like there to be just a lot more focus on this, especially for humans who experience PCOS, endometriosis. Like, what does that look like for them, and how can we make sure they're getting the most important care? We recently launched a witch hazel line, which was created specifically for new moms. I wish I had it when I was dealing with, tears and the such after having 2 daughters. But it, it's very soothing. It's formulated with witch hazel, which if you've had children, is a great active ingredient for recovery. And it's, designed to support intimate skin while also still leaving you refreshed and confident and balanced. And so in addition to that product, we always seek to provide education. And so you can find lots of information around postpartum recovery, even why you should consider having a doula, whether it's, during labor and delivery or postpartum, because we believe that the postpartum aisles and conversations need to be stocked with trust, education, and products that work. And then as a Black woman, I think just there is so much more that can be done for Black maternal health in general, but specifically Black maternal health. I live in Georgia, where we have some of the highest, if not the highest, Black maternal mortality rates. And I just think in 2025, that's unacceptable. And it's something that we should all care about, the health and wellness of the humans who are bringing life into our society.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree with you more. Dr. Sarah and Jazmyn, I actually did a collaboration with March of Dimes on the Black maternal health crisis and the maternity deserts that still exist all over the country. So definitely a pressing thing we have to resolve. I wanted to just give some love to the chat because everybody is logging in from all over. We have New Orleans, Miami, Oregon, New Jersey, Maryland, upstate New York, DC, California. This is so wonderful to see everybody from everywhere logging in, taking some time out of their day. I wanted to share one of the users' comments. It was from a LinkedIn user. So they say, no close female relative shared anything about sex or women's health, etc. growing up. I shared concerns with close girlfriends around my own age group, a trusted female OBGYN, and still do. My mother is a boomer of Greek ethnicity, and she did not talk about sex or even perimenopause. So it's all going on now. She's going through peri now, and she's loving this conversation. Thank you. That's wonderful. Now I actually wanted to bring up some polls related to our community logging in. So this is our community check-in. We did a poll on our Maker social media to ask what policies will actually move the needle for women. And here is what they said. It was pretty balanced across the board. We also, so here, let me just break this down. Fertility and IVF coverage, 17%. Caregiver support at work, 61% of those who answered in the poll want to see some change there. And 22% want to learn more about paid menstrual and menopause. So paid leave, yes. Okay. Now I'm going to throw it back to Tara Lipinski. She's got one more cameo because she had an interesting answer to this specific question. So let's hear from Tara.
I hope that at some point the focus really narrows down and lasers in on what that looks like to be a mom and to also be a working mother, and to give someone the opportunity to be able to do both of those things, because it is so hard. And there's so many different layers, the physical, the emotional, the financial support, and you need those things to be able to juggle all of these balls and to still be able to live out your own wants or your own dreams. I'm always specifically fighting for the people that are looking to build a family in the infertility space and the IVF world, because obviously I have firsthand experience with that. And I know that right now it's just not good enough. IVF is an expensive science. For someone like me, it took 8 times. And for someone that may not have the resources to do that, maybe their journey and their dreams of building a family would have ended at that point. And it's really hard, and it's where so many people stop because they can't take that next step. I'm just one person with the hope that this can change, but I do hope that in the future, whether it's through insurance and companies and laws, that these things change.
Wonderful. I'm so glad that she was with us for this conversation. Now we can toss it to all of you if you have any questions for Dr. Sarah or Jazmyn. We have one from Tracy. Hi, Tracy. She wrote, if you have an IUD and don't get periods, how do you know whether or not you're in peri or menopause? Good question.
Great question. Yeah. So symptoms are, in my mind, the most important that you should be aware of in perimenopause and menopause. And again, learning about this, and of course, we do a great job of it at Respin, teaching and educating, but learning about, are you having anxiety, worsening PMS, really sore breast tenderness right before your period? Spotting with an IUD is possible, so keeping track of spotting. Are you having sleeping difficulty? So really kind of paying attention to how you're feeling. Also, mental health challenges, anxiety, depression. And then also looking at age. Typically, most women are experiencing perimenopausal symptoms at least by their mid-40s, if not a little bit earlier. And then the average age of menopause is 51 for white women and about 1 to 2 years earlier for women of color. So it varies, but paying attention to your symptoms is most important. We have a symptom tracker at Respin, which our members are telling us is life-saving because they can take it to their provider and say, look at all this, look what I'm going through. And it looks cyclical, right? If you're having worsening mood, right, monthly, right, it's probably right before your period. And one more thing about that is even if you are having periods, even if you have an IUD, whether you're having an IUD or not, but you're still cycling, whether it's symptomatically or with bleeding, it does not mean you can't get help. You do lifestyle changes, maybe consider menopausal hormone therapy. So even if you're in that situation where you're still cycling, but you're suffering with symptoms, heavier periods, things like that, then it's time to talk with someone.
That's so helpful. And I love that you have a tracker. That's amazing. I mean, it's like when I'm in my luteal phase, you don't want to be around me. It's like I just need to be in a cave by myself. So yeah, it's always nice to have that heads up and to know. Kira Joe asks, how do companies like the Honey Pot balance business growth with prioritizing women's health and wellness?
Whew, that's a good question. Like, Kira, you want to come work for us? You can help me. So what I love that our founder, Beatrice Dixon, says is she says our number one product is actually education. And that first and foremost, we need to provide education. And if that education leads you to choose our products, amazing. But we cannot offer a product without you understanding why you should use it or have it. Why do our pads, have herbs in them? Because herbs have been used for thousands of years to support reproductive health and vaginal wellness. And so we believe that those herbs can be infused into a pad to provide a better period. And so then someone's like, oh, it's interesting. Maybe I'll go check those out. But it's always about the education first. And so I think that we educate women on how to be great advocates for themselves in the doctor's office. I love the way Dr. De La Torre said, bringing in those symptoms. We talk to young women about that, making a list, bringing an advocate with them if they need to when they're talking to their doctor. And so it's about coupling our brand and our products with that education to feel like they go hand in hand, which I believe will lead to really great business.
Absolutely. And I think that with our discerning consumers, we check the labels. We want to make sure that what we're ingesting or putting on our bodies is something that's healthy and it's not going to work against us. And so I love that that's the ethos of the company. It's great. We have a question from Ronisha. An audience question. She's just fielding them. She said, is there any media, movies, TV shows, podcasts, or books that you think is doing a great job at talking about women's health? We want your recommendations, who you follow.
I'll go ahead and go. There's a journalist named Tamsin Fadal who wrote a book called How to Menopause. And there's lots of books out there written by doctors, which are also very excellent for medical information and sort of really learning about menopause and perimenopause. What I love about what Tamsin does is she breaks it down as if she's your really educated girlfriend, right? She's talked to experts. Her book is incredible. It goes from everything from symptoms to sex to skin to all of it. And then she has a podcast where she's bringing guest experts on and answering questions that the audience will have and really digging into things, whether it's GLP-1s or vaginal estrogen or vaginal health or sex and menopause, It's really, really powerful. And then, I mean, I would just say that's a great place to start as with Tamsin, because it's research information, experts in the field, not a lot of influencing going on without data, which I find really powerful for women.
It's excellent.
And then
Thank
I
you.
would just
Yeah.
love to add, Oprah Winfrey had a special. I mean, we all love anything Oprah's going to put out, but it was all about, the menopause revolution. We had a virtual watch party at work where we all watched it on the same night, and we're sending Slacks back and forth talking about it. But I think it was great because it humanized it. There were, women in the audience who was very relevant to. Halle Berry was on it as well. And so for me, as someone who I'm like, that is my future, it was really great to tap in now and not think of it as something that shouldn't know about until I'm right there. Like, I want to be ahead of that, and every woman should, so that we can be prepared and enter it with confidence and the tools to navigate it successfully.
I totally agree with you. I have some recommendations too, and Hallie has her, imprint in this as well. But it was an event that I met her in New York with Dr. Lisa Mosconi, who's a neuroscientist, and she wrote the book Menopause Brain. And what I found most fascinating, because I'm very much in the sandwich generation, I have my 3 young kids, but my mom is also battling Alzheimer's. I learned that we would have found biomarkers for her Alzheimer's when she went through menopause. But sadly, she kept that in, and my sister and dad and I never knew when she was going through it. And, I must have been in college at that time, And so it pains me to think about that, but we're all cycle breakers in this community. And so we will make sure to get those tests done and be ahead of the curve, as Jazmyn said, and make sure to pass on this knowledge to our kids when they come of time. So important that we're doing this.
That's a great one, Kanika. I
yeah,
just want
thank
to
you.
add that Dr. Lisa is on our medical advisory board, and she's doing incredible research on estrogen and dementia, and really trying to break down the role of likely leading to less dementia when we use estradiol. And then another one of our medical advisory board members is Dr. Vonda Wright. So Hallie's could have gotten this group together dealing with different aspects of our health and our body. So Dr. Vonda Wright's an orthopedic surgeon. She talks about strength and muscle and preventing osteoporosis. And then Dr. Mosconi and Dr. Mackey, again, also are studying Alzheimer's and dementia. So listening to these experts is just so important, that it's not all, you don't get confused by the science. They really break it down in a user-friendly way that you can apply it to your own health.
That's great. And I love that there's a collective of these, experts in the field. We need that. Another audience question is, as an organizational psychologist, how can I advocate for new policies around support for things like menopause at work?
That sounds up my alley, Jazmyn, and you can chime in too. So, not only menopause, but menstrual health at work, right? If you imagine, I tell my sons this, when they were teenagers, imagine doing all the things that you're doing. You are playing sports, you are going to school, you're doing all these things. Now, imagine you are bleeding out of your penis and you are cranky and you don't feel good and you want to crawl up in bed. Now imagine that, and that happens to you every month. And all 3 of them at the time that I told them were like, whoa, head spinning. So I think, educating people that this is not some niche area of, menopause or periods or endometriosis. This is what women do all their whole lives, right? These are important medical issues. They're not sort of, just trendy things, and women suffer. And so at work, for advocating for women, I think thinking about optional days off, where no stigma, no shame, you need a day off, especially for a woman who has difficult periods or who's suffering with menopausal symptoms, right? Promoting education at work, talking about the vagina at work in obviously appropriate manners, giving medical education seminars about what women may be going through. These are really, really important. And then just systematic changes, that one, yes, education, talking about it, time off, and then not penalizing women, because these are happening to, these symptoms and things are happening to women like endometriosis or infertility, right? In career peak building years. And then in perimenopause and menopause, oftentimes when we're at the peak of our careers and want to keep going. So I think recognizing it, talking about it, and then giving women support with paid time off is really important to allow women to sort of stay in the game and also take care of themselves.
I would just add that in business, numbers talk, share the data. Thankfully, this is being talked about so much more, and there are so many articles that talk about, the number of women who go through this, how women are being discriminated upon when they're in menopause, and how they're not hired because of their age. It's, so I think that sharing that more and more is important. And as a marketer, we know that it takes 7 to 10 messages for it to stick. And so I'd say continue to advocate and share that, and then if you're in a company that has an employee resource group, getting at least the women educated and informed about that so they can go be the foot soldiers as well to spread that. I would say start with the people who will care, and then eventually let that ripple out.
100%. And I feel like, even just this session today, this recording, you can take this back to your team members, human resources, as a tool for the company to use. So yeah, the more we can advocate. Okay, I think that brings us to the end of this session. Thank you so much, Dr. Sarah and Jazmyn, for joining us today. You two are both just amazing leaders, and you're helping us chart our paths with so much more knowledge and confidence. And I want all of the audience members to know where to find you and stay in touch with you. So they'll be dropping that in the comments. We'll make sure that they have your information there. And then my show is That's Total Mom Sense. You can find me at that'stotalmomsense.com. I kicked it off, but we're going to hear from the two of you. But yeah, my podcast is on Spotify, Apple, YouTube, and I have conversations much like this on life lessons and legacy. And Jazmyn, tell our audience where they can find you.
Of course, I'm excited to listen to your podcast. I listen when I walk with my weighted vest. I'm one of those people.
Oh, that's awesome.
I'm going to be listening to yours next. But so we're super excited. I want to share that we just launched our first ever campaign, a period care campaign, all about how we make periods better. Not radically better, but, just enough better. And so it's just important that we share that we support humans with vaginas every age, every stage, with compassion and intention. And so our goal is to open the door to even more honest conversations that are around menstruation and challenge these overly idealized or hushed narratives. So it's usually one side or the other, and we want to be in the middle to say it's both. Sometimes you're amazing on your period, sometimes you're miserable, and both are okay. And so you can follow us at The Honey Pot Co. So if you're on Instagram, TikTok, you can see our new campaign video and a lot of the ways that we're engaging our community, our website, which was dropped in the chat, thehoneypot.co. And you can keep up with me on LinkedIn, Jazmyn Williams.
Awesome. And Dr. Sarah.
Great, thanks. Well, at Respin, I'd invite you to come over and check out our community. We have a lot of access to free content and community that can be so helpful. There's not a lot of answers out there for perimenopause and menopause, and your doctor's not always the one to tell you because they're not as educated. So I just encourage you to come check out our personalized plans. We're science-backed. Hallie's there with us. It's pretty impressive to have her being really raw and honest about her journey and helping women in their journey. So I'm excited about Respin Health. We are launching menopause hormone therapy in the next several months, and that's going to be just a game changer for so many women because it's, again, personalized. It's not just giving you a prescription and then saying, see you later. It's wrapping you in our arms of our community and giving you lifestyle help and changes. So I'm very excited about that. You can find me on Dr. Menopause or Dr. Sarah _menopause MD or at respin.health. And then also my own personal private practice, Lumani Wellness. So thanks again for this opportunity. It was really fun. And Jazmyn, I just love what you're doing. I'm just really impressed.
The feeling is so mutual on Respin now. Like, how do I get tapped into this early? I'm going to be the first person way ahead of it.
Do it. Get ahead of it. Yeah, don't let it get you.
Yes, it's so wonderful that we have this. And for all of you listening, thanks so much for your time. And we're so glad that you were part of this conversation. Love all the love coming from Tracy, Janae, Melissa, she said, I use honeypot products. Thank you. So we are all honeypot and Respin believers after this. And thank you for sharing your insights. It was just an honor to have you both with us today.
Thank you.
Thank you.